Sometimes we have this concept that people leave the church physically and they've left their faith and everything, and those are the people that we like to talk about. Oh, they left the church. I was writing sermons. I was leading Bible studies on Friday nights, and I couldn't care less about God. My story is a little, I don't know if it's different for most people, it feels different for me. About a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I went through an experience of loss that really challenged my ideas of God. Before in life we go through pain, we go through, life. It's full of highs and lows. But this was different in that I really believed that God had a hand in it. Seeing God having a hand in something that caused me a significant amount of pain, it really threw me for a loop. For the first time, I had to confront what I really believed about why God allows people to go through pain. Why would God lead us into situations that He knew, because ultimately He knows everything, that He knew would in the end cause us pain? Why would He allow that? And so I began to wrestle with this, and of course, you have the regular answer. It's all for the good of humanity, it's for your character, and that just seemed really sadist to me. If I have to go through pain to become good enough? And in this journey, I just began to just walk away from God. And essentially, it's like, if that's who you are, that you allow us, you lead us into pain, knowing what's going to happen, sometimes without a purpose, I don't know that I want any part of that. So I began a journey to figure out the answers to my questions. And it wasn't so much about the incident that spurned it all as it opened up questions that I didn't know I didn't have answers to. I'm never going to be good enough. You're going to have to put me through so much pain until I'm good enough, and I feel like I've done my dues for pain. I really feel like I've been through enough. And so emotionally, I walked away. Now I've been a lifelong Adventist. You get baptized at 12, and my dad was a pastor, so he baptized me, so I should have all the answers. I served with a major Adventist organization for a bunch of years. I should have had it figured out. And that really didn't help this whole thing of me journeying away, because I felt a lot of shame and guilt because I didn't have the answers, and because I didn't know if God was who I was told He was. And so I had this picture of God who I was told He was, God who I thought He was up until this point, and then the God that I was seeing or feeling that was present. Growing up, I'd always had this idea that God was this, you do everything right, or you surrender to Him and you submit to Him, and He's going to lead you in the best way for you, and you're not going to have to go through as much trials or whatever. Maybe trials from the enemy, but God's not going to lead you into something. And that was the picture of Christianity and of religion that I had. And then that got so, violated. So I left. I still was going to church, but emotionally, mentally, I was so checked out. I was like, look, I don't care about you, God. You hurt me. I still kept the Sabbath, which is interesting because it shows the cognitive dissonance that was going on. I didn't want to have anything to do with God, but at the same time, I still respected the Sabbath. And so for a year, a couple months at the beginning of the year, I just kind of ignored God. I didn't pray. I went to church and was like, wow. They're singing about how good God is, and I just felt like that was so fake, so wrong, so absolutely ridiculous. God was not good. Months pass. And I realized that my questions are slowly starting to be answered. Not the way that I thought they were going to be answered. My whole idea of God was shattered, of religion was shattered. And I had to begin to pick up the pieces and analyze who God really was. And then finally, I was at a concert. One of the songs that he did is called Weep With Me. It talks about God weeping with his children. And it was at that point I thought, maybe he felt my pain too. That was so soothing to me. The idea that, yeah, God may have allowed or even led me into pain for whatever reason, but he felt it too. And so from then on, I began to inch back. Very slowly, I began to realize that maybe God wasn't who I'd been taught he was. Maybe my whole theology of God had been construed, or maybe I was looking through it through the wrong lens, and maybe God was not at all who I thought he was. And so I just continued to inch back towards him. I began to open up to people about the fact that I wasn't super religious anymore, or I wasn't super into my Christianity anymore. And there are people, oh, you just need to pray more. You don't have enough faith, that's why you're struggling. And that really didn't help. I began to do things that maybe people wouldn't respect, and people lost a lot of respect for me. And I realized that I had a really messed up picture of who God was, but I still wasn't ready to come back. It's like, well, if my little bit of faith that I have isn't enough, then I don't want anything to do with God. This pain, if he can't take me being angry and being hurt, if that's somehow going to jeopardize my salvation, then I don't want anything to do with him. If he's vindictive like that, I don't want anything to do with him. But there was something in the back of my mind that said, maybe that's not true. Because then you have this picture of God giving his son, and how would I reconcile all of that? So maybe you're not who I thought you were. And so I continued just inching back. And then people were like, well, are you doing your devotions? Maybe you're not doing them right. Maybe you're not doing them enough. Are you Christian enough? Maybe that's why. And I was in this process, I was beginning to come back to God, and that wasn't helpful. But I decided maybe they didn't have the right picture of God either, and I would continue to give God this second chance. And once I started the process of coming back, people began to see and to know. But other than that, I was pretty much alone in this. I felt like I couldn't tell anyone because people would judge me. People would think that I was less of a Christian, less of a person. I would lose their respect. And in the end, that's what happened for a lot of people. But I think I gained respect for religion, for spirituality itself. And I realized that coming back and leaving in their own journey was what I needed. There was another thing that happened during this time of me coming back that I think was really significant. God began to place people in my life that really challenged what I thought God was, and started pointing me toward a God who was more of what I believe what he is this day. As much as there are people who challenged the fact that I was even a Christian because I had doubt, there were also people who said, God is big enough. One of my friends, I remember this, God is big enough to take it. He's big enough to take your anger. It doesn't violate his security as God. He's not, his ego isn't at stake here. He will wait patiently for you. And so I began to realize that maybe this picture of God was a little closer to who he really is, and it's closer to the picture that I have today. For a long time, I didn't listen to any Christian music. It was only secular. I became a very secular person, and so as I began to incorporate religion into my life, I began to reevaluate the things that I was incorporating, my beliefs that I reincorporated, the things that I did or didn't do that I incorporated, and I began to realize that our picture of God influences literally every area of our life. And there's not an area of our life that our picture of God does not touch if you're a spiritual person. And so my life began to be put back together radically different from the way it was before. And I remember the first time I realized that I was coming back for sure to God and for sure to religion. I saw a beautiful sunset and I thought, wow, maybe you really did that for me. I chose to come back to Adventism for a very specific purpose. And that's because I see Jesus most clearly through Adventism. Maybe not always through its people, but definitely through its beliefs. And I can't say that all my questions are answered because they're not. They're most definitely not. But I can say that as time goes on, I begin to see more clearly why he allowed the things that he allowed. But more than that, who he is. And it challenged me to even now that I would consider myself back, I guess, emotionally reinvested in the church and re-believing in the church and reignited in my faith. I continually challenge my perception of God and who he is. Because I realized that faith, uncontested or unevaluated, is really not faith at all.